Melachim Aleph, or 1 Kings, chapter 17. And Eliyahu the Tishbite of the settlers of Gilad said to Ahab, As Yehovah Elohim of Israel lives, before whom I stand, there shall be no dew or rain these years except at my word. And the word of Yehovah came to him, saying, Go away from here and turn eastward and hide by the Wadi Kerith, which flows into the Jordan. And it shall be that you drink from the stream, and I shall command the ravens to feed you there. And he went and did according to the word of Yehovah, for he went and dwelt by the Wadi Kerith, which flows into the Jordan. And the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the stream. And it came to be after a while that the stream dried up, because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of Yehovah came to him, saying, Rise up, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. See, I have commanded a widow there to sustain you. And he rose up and went to Zarephath, and came to the gate of the city, and saw a widow there gathering sticks. And he called and said to her, Please bring me a little water in a vessel to drink. And as she was going to get it, he called and said to her, Please bring me a piece of bread in your hand. And she said, As Yehovah your Elohim lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin and a little oil in a jar. And see, I'm gathering a couple of sticks, and I shall go in and prepare it for myself and my son, and we shall eat it and die. And Eliyahu said to her, Do not fear. Go and do as you have said, but make me a small cake from it first, and bring it to me. And afterward make some for yourself and your son. For thus said Yehovah Elohim of Israel, The bin of flour shall not be used up, nor the jar of oil run dry, until the day Yehovah sends rain on the earth. So she went and did according to the word of Eliyahu. And she and he and her household ate for many days. The bin of flour was not used up, nor did the jar of oil run dry, according to the word of Yehovah, which he spoke by Eliyahu. After these events, it came to be that the son of the woman who owned the house became sick, and his sickness was very severe, until there was no breath left in him. And she said to Eliyahu, What have I to do with you, O man of Elohim? Have you come to me to bring my crookedness to be remembered and to kill my son? And he said to her, Give me your son. So he took him from her arms and took him to the upper room where he was dwelling, and laid him on his own bed, and cried out to Yehovah, and said, O Yehovah, my Elohim, have you also brought evil on the widow with whom I'm sojourning, to kill her son? And he stretched himself out on the child 3 times, and cried out to Yehovah, and said, O Yehovah, my Elohim, I pray, let the life of this child come back to him. And Yehovah heard the voice of Eliyahu, and the life of the child came back to him, and he lived. And Eliyahu took the child and brought him down from the upper room into the house, and gave him to his mother. And Eliyahu said, See, your son lives. And the woman said to Eliyahu, Now by this I know that you are a man of Elohim, and that the word of Yehovah in your mouth is true. Chapter 18. And after many days it came to be that the word of Yehovah came to Eliyahu in the 3rd year, saying, Go present yourself to Ahab, and I give rain on the earth. And thereupon Eliyahu went to present himself to Ahab. And the scarcity of food in Shomeron was severe. And Ahab had called to Obadiah, who was over his house. Now, Obadiah feared Yehovah exceedingly, and it came to be while Isabel cut down the prophets of Yehovah that Obadiah had taken 100 prophets and hidden them, 50 to a cave, and fed them with bread and water. And Ahab had said to Obadiah, "Go into the land to all the springs of water and to all the wadis. It could be that we find grass to keep the horses and mules alive and not have any livestock cut off." And they divided the land between them to pass over it. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. And as Obadiah was on his way, then see, Eliyahu met him, and he recognized him and fell on his face and said, "Is that you, my master Eliyahu?" And he answered, "It is I. Go, say to your master, Eliyahu is here." And he said, "What have I sinned that you are giving your servant into the hand of Ahab to kill me? As Yehovah your Elohim lives, there is no nation or reign where my master has not sent to look for you." And when they said, "He is not here," he made the reign or nations swear that they could not find you. And now you say, "Go say to your master, Eliyahu is here." And it shall be, as soon as I am gone from you, that the Spirit of Yehovah takes you away to a place I do not know. And I shall come to report to Ahab, and when he does not find you, he shall kill me. But I, your servant, have feared Yehovah from my youth. Was it not reported to my master what I did when Isabel killed the prophets of Yehovah, how I hid 100 men of the prophets of Yehovah, 50 to a cave, and fed them with bread and water? And now you say, "Go say to your master, Eliyahu is here." Then he shall kill me. And Eliyahu said, "As Yehovah of hosts lives, before whom I stand, I shall indeed show myself to him today." Obadiah then went to meet Ahab and informed him, and Ahab went to meet Eliyahu. And it came to be when Ahab saw Eliyahu that Ahab said to him, "Is that you, O disturber of Israel?" And he answered, "I have not disturbed Israel, but you and your father's house, in that you've forsaken the commands of Yehovah, and you've followed the Baals. And now send and gather all Israel to me on Mount Carmel, the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Isabel's table." Ahab then sent for all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets on Mount Carmel. And Eliyahu came to all the people and said, "How long would you keep hoping between two opinions? If Yehovah is Elohim, follow him, and if Baal, follow him." But the people answered him not a word. And Eliyahu said to the people, "I alone am left, a prophet of Yehovah, but the prophets of Baal are 450 men. Now, let them give us 2 bulls. Let them choose 1 bull for themselves, and cut it in pieces and lay it on the wood, but set no fire. And I prepare the other bull and shall lay it on the wood, but set no fire. And you shall call on the name of your mighty one, and I call on the name of Yehovah. And the Elohim who answers by fire, he is Elohim." So all the people answered and said, "The word is good." And Eliyahu said to the prophets of Baal, "Choose one bull for yourselves and prepare it first, for you are many, and call on the name of your mighty one, but set no fire." So they took the bull which was given them and prepared it and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, "O Baal, answer us." But there was no voice and no one answered. And they leaped about the slaughter place which they had made. And it came to be at noon that Eliyahu taunted them and said, "Cry aloud, for he is a mighty one. He is meditating, or he is busy, or he is on a journey. Or it could be that he is asleep and has to be awakened." And they cried aloud, cutting themselves according to their ruling with knives and spears until the blood gushed out on them. And it came to be when midday was past that they prophesied until the time of bringing the evening offering. But there was no voice and no one answered, and no one paying attention. Then Eliyahu said to all the people, "Come closer to me." And all the people came closer to him. And he repaired the slaughter place of Yehovah that was broken down. And Eliyahu took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Yaakov, to whom the word of Yehovah had come, saying, "Israel is your name." And with the stones he built a slaughter place in the name of Yehovah. And he made a trench around the slaughter place, large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. And he arranged the wood and cut the bull in pieces and laid it on the wood and said, "Fill 4 jars with water and pour it on the ascending offering and on the wood." And then he said, "Do it a second time." And they did it a second time. And he said, "Do it a third time." And they did it a third time. And the water flowed around the slaughter place, and he filled the trench with water too. And it came to be at the time of bringing in the evening offering that Eliyahu the prophet came near and said, "Yehovah Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Israel, let it be known today, you are Elohim in Israel, and I, your servant, have done all these matters by your word. Answer me, O Yehovah, answer me, and let this people know that you are Yehovah Elohim, and you shall turn their hearts back to you again." Then the fire of Yehovah fell and consumed the ascending offering and the wood and the stones and the dust, and it licked up the water that was in the trench. And all the people saw and fell on their faces and said, "Yehovah, he is the Elohim. Yehovah, he is the Elohim." And Eliyahu said to them, "Seize the prophets of Baal. Do not let one of them escape." So they seized them. And Eliyahu brought them down to the Wadi Kishon and slew them there. And Eliyahu said to Ahab, "Go up, eat and drink, because of the sound of the noise of rain." And Ahab went up to eat and drink, and Eliyahu went up to the top of Carmel, and he bowed down on the ground and put his face between his knees, and said to his servant, "Go up, please, look closely toward the sea." So he went up and looked closely and said, "Not a speck." And 7 times he said, "Go again." And it came to be on the 7th time that he said, "See, a little cloud as small as a man's hand is coming up out of the sea." And he said, "Go up, say to Ahab, hitch up and go down before the rain stops you." And in the meantime it came to be that the heavens became black with clouds and wind, and there was a heavy rain, while Ahab rode and went to Yisrael. And the hand of Yehovah was on Eliyahu, and he girded up his loins and ran ahead of Ahab to the entrance of Yisrael. And chapter 19. And when Ahab reported to Isabel all that Eliyahu had done, also how he slew all the prophets with the sword, Isabel sent a messenger to Eliyahu, saying, "So let the mighty ones do to me and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time." And he feared, and rose up, and ran for his life, and went to Beersheba, which belongs to Yehudah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a broom tree, and prayed that he might die, and said, "It is enough. Now, Yehovah, take my life, for I am no better than my father's." And he lay and slept under a broom tree. And see, a messenger touched him and said to him, "Rise, eat." And he looked, and saw by his head a cake baked on coals and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and turned and lay down. And the messenger of Yehovah came back the second time and touched him and said, "Rise, eat, for the journey is too much for you." And he rose up and ate and drank, and went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights, as far as Horeb, the mountain of Elohim. And there he went into a cave and spent the night there. And see, the word of Yehovah came to him and said to him, "What are you doing here, Eliyahu?" And he said, "I have been very jealous for Yehovah Elohim of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant. They've thrown down your slaughter places, and they've killed your prophets with the sword, and I'm left, I alone, and they seek my life to take it." And he said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before Yehovah, and see." Yehovah passed by, and a great and strong wind, tearing the mountains and breaking the rocks in pieces before Yehovah. Yehovah was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. Yehovah was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. Yehovah was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still, small voice. And it came to be, when Eliyahu heard it, that he wrapped his face in his robe and went out and stood at the cave opening. And see, a voice came to him and said, "What are you doing here, Eliyahu?" And he said, "I've been very jealous for Yehovah Elohim of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant. They've thrown down your slaughter places. They've killed your prophets with the sword, and I'm left, I alone. They seek my life to take it." And Yehovah said to him, "Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and you shall go in and anoint Hazael as sovereign over Aram, and anoint Yehu, son of Nimshi, as sovereign over Israel, and anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat of Abel Moholah, as prophet in your place. And it shall be that whoever escapes the sword of Hazael, Yehu does kill, and whoever escapes from the sword of Yehu, Elisha does kill. And I shall leave 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him." And he went up from there, and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him. And he was pleased with the 12. And Eliyahu passed by him and threw his robe on him. And he left the oxen and ran after Eliyahu and said, "Please let me kiss my father and my mother, and then I follow you." And he said to him, "Go, turn back, for what have I done to you?" And he turned back from him and took a yoke of oxen and slaughtered them and cooked their flesh using the implements of the oxen, and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he rose up and followed Eliyahu and became his servant.